So we got to pay
We just got ours.
payroll for January and February out of that surplus.
Yeah, that's
Basically, your rule of thumb is to carry forward at the minimum 3 pay periods to make sure you have the revenue. If history shows that
90 day.
the first half property tax isn't coming until the end of February, early March, then you need at least 4 pay periods carryover.
And that's a logistical thing that the average person, there's no way you could know that. Going into the new year, that it looks like we got a lot of money left over. Well, we got to pay payroll through the first quarter of the year, or at least the first couple of months.
Yeah, this is rough. Like I said, this is rough numbers. And but I'm just trying to say that you ask for and it's there, and it's there.
But that's not a raise.
No.
No, it's not. Well,
That's not a healthy surplus either.
No, it's
It's
not. It's
a raise.
close.
And we all know the council's been working towards a 90-day surplus. It's
Yeah.
not a 90-day surplus, and it's not a raise.
When I asked where the money went, I thought it was some money.
Yeah.
You're talking you wanted 172,000 or somewhere around in there, and that's where I'm thinking $250,000, $500,000. I had no idea it was so little. Is my point.
Right,
That's the point I was trying to make, and I'm thinking it's a lot of money, and I'm asking where is it?
Exactly. And it's not through a lack of effort on council's part that you don't know that. Because I issue press releases regularly in the newspaper, and I just can't control, and it's on TV. I can't control what people choose to listen to or absorb, or everybody's busy, And the general consensus was we passed the levy.
Yeah.
And we did. We did pass the levy.
Can I do another one?
Pardon me?
Can I do another levy? November?
That's why we're here tonight.
I say do it.
I spoke to
Put a
council.
reasonable amount up there.
I made a recommendation to council just October, November, that we need to address the revenue shortfall, and that's what landed us where we are right now. Because council, I won't speak for council, but my recollection is the council wanted to explore all options before they went back to the taxpayers.
Pick a reasonable number that works without being too much or too little. I can do.
What was the last proposal? Does anybody remember?
Try it.
I think we
4.3.
Is that what passed?
No.
that's
That's the last
That was the
discussion
proposal.
we had. That's the
In real
last.
dollar terms, what that come to?
I don't remember.
Well,
I don't remember. I would be lying. I don't know. I don't remember.
We got a yes?
you guys know what we
No,
need?
I'm not
Put it
gonna
up and we'll vote for it. Hopefully it'll pass.
We don't know what that will bring until
Yeah.
Then we let them go.
the county auditor sets it up.
We're just trying.
Yeah, man. Obviously, that's why I brought that recommendation to council. And I think it was September, October, whatever it was. And that's why we're here today. We're exploring all options. Council is exploring all options.
The main thing on the previous ballot was the renewal of the larger levy, which is figured on, what was it, 2001
90.
evaluations or something?
The second levy was a 10 mil
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, confusing.
new millage because we were going to eliminate the 7 and the 3.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, honest to goodness, it's confusing.
Yeah.
And I don't care how many times you put it on TV, how many times you put it in the newspaper, and trust me, it was. It just gets confusing, and people are busy. Simple as that. Yes, sir.
Mayor, if it went as a renewal, will we have the money on for renewal, or will we have to ask for an increase?
If you went as a renewal, that's what we went for the first time, correct?
First time.
Yeah. You could renew, try to
I think
renew
it
the
was
7.
140 is what it.
Yeah, that would have generated right about 140,000. The combined dollar amount, and I'm trying to remember, is roughly $170,000 for the two levies. Okay, and I think the one generated 27, and the other one was 140 something. So the question is, if council put on a 7 renewal now, and it passed, we would get what we were trying to get last year.
Oh, okay.
Now,
If you call it a renewal, wouldn't it have a better chance of winning because people don't think of it the same way as they think?
well,
it's new?
that's how it was run the first time, was a renewal. But the confusing part was that you were a 7 and a 3 were running.
Yeah.
And people don't think, what's 3 mil mean to me? I don't know. Even though we promoted it and then we put that information out, when they go to the ballot box, they don't compute in their mind, and I don't. I don't either. When I go to the ballot box, I mean, you would know it in advance.
So that I know before I go
I
to
saw
the
a number in
ballot
May
box.
from a school, and I said, "You want how much? Who are you kidding?" Seriously.
Well, and honestly, that's the biggest objection. That's the biggest objection I got from anybody regarding the levies. After passing the West Carmont, you think I'm going to pay more in taxes? I didn't get that much objection about the police
West Claremont
department.
did not pass the in May.
They're coming at us every year,
Yes.
every
That's West
dang
Claremont.
year, and they stole one.
Yes, I know. Food.
And so, to some degree, I think we're sort of a victim of that. Because that's the single biggest thing that I heard why the levies didn't. Our levies didn't.
People are
Tired of paying taxes.
right.
Seems like I said that
People
a
are
couple
paying more for
dozen times
everything
today.
day by day.
Yeah.
Gasoline, food, the whole 9 yards.
Absolutely, I agree.
And they're taxed out. They don't have any more money to give, even if they wanted to.
I agree. And that's why we're here. And that's why, I mean, that's what we're doing, is exploring all options.
There you go.
In the answer to that, that's why we didn't just start another levy. We didn't want to. We wanted to look at all options.
Probably need to, don't
We had, what,
Well, you,
we? Put one on in November.
See, I think
Talk to council.
Need
you know,
something.
my 2 cents on that, and I know I get a lot of boos for people who aren't on Tea Party, but you know, I don't know we need another levy right now. I mean, we're already gone from the red to the black. I think we let this stuff settle down, let the dust settle, and we see where we are. You know, and look at next year.
Here's
That's
the,
my thought on if we need more money. But you know, that's putting so many what ifs in there, because that's what if we stay with our guys, what if we do this, what if we, none of these hard decisions have been made yet. So I mean, it's really tough to sit here and talk about what we're going to do in November, because we're not close to there yet. You know what I'm saying? We're not ready to take that next step.
well, here's the big picture. What we're talking about now is just maintaining our police department.
Right.
yeah.
Okay, let's say we put on a levy, a 7 mil renewal, and it passes. Guess what? It's still, the village still is projected to be operating at a deficit in 2013. Still projected to operate at a deficit in 2013. So if you look at the big picture, then that means to you, okay, I'm going to pay more, an extra $200 a year, I'm just grabbing a number, to keep the police department, and then they're going to come right back and bang on me for more money. And that's just the numbers. That's, honest to goodness, it's just the numbers. Our fiscal officer just presented here last week, and it's something we've been talking about for a number of months. Let's pretend this conversation is not happening. Let's pretend that the police department is solidly intact and the budget's in great shape. We've got the department of our dreams. It still doesn't address shortfall in the and the general fund due to the cuts that we're experiencing beginning next month. By 2013, we will lose, it's like $127,000 in funding from the local government fund. And never, to my knowledge, in the history of the village, has the village moved into a new year with a fund balance, a positive fund balance of $127,000. So the basic formula is, need more money,
Yeah.
or further cuts in services. So when you incorporate, if you look at the whole big picture, that's the whole big picture. And that's why we're here. That's why it's such a hard decision. It's the difference between making an emotional decision and making a logistical and fiscal decision.
Well, with all due respect, if we expand our police department and go to the sheriff, we're trying to sell the houses. We're having, people in my neighborhood, I mean, I wouldn't even think of trying to sell my house because they're just not going.
Nope.
Isn't that going to make property values worse? Isn't that going to then mean the revenues
I would
when you
think
come
so.
back in 2 years and they assess again our property taxes?
Yeah.
You're going to get less. I mean, it won't that in effect be a cause and effect to drag it down even more than the poor economy is? Not having. To me, if I were
Not having a
moving
police
into-
department?
Not having my
Oh,
own
I would
little
agree.
police department.
I would agree.
If I'm moving, if you're trying to encourage me to move into your community, and you're telling me that if it's not a peak hour, that person might be in North Loveland, I might be looking elsewhere.
Absolutely.
So I'm saying that the cause and effect there, you might be paying miles and pounds.
Yeah, like I said though, we can save the police department today. It's a done deal. We're still going to have a revenue shortfall.
I understand.
Yeah.
Quick question there. If Amelia is moving more towards city,
Definitely
city
moving
status,
more.
okay, and that might generate more funds, at least federal funds or something else like that. In order us to gain that status, is there anything in this is that we must have a police department, an independent police department? And, you know, police department, the way I'm looking at it is, you know, that's your infrastructure for your city, okay? And for us to grow, I think that we need to have that. If I'm a businessman and I'm looking to bring my company into Amelia, and they don't have a police department, I'm going to take a second look at that.
You and me are thinking the same way. And the
Yeah.
simple truth is that the citizens didn't.
Look at
You're here tonight in support, but when they went to the polls, they didn't support it. And that's what council's working with. That's
I voted
the
for it.
bottom-
We
Well,
voted
thank
for
you.
it.
Yeah, we voted for it,
Thank you very much. But I mean, that's the reality
but
that
you
council's
have to
working
get
with.
the whole community to vote yes on it.
Well, so that-
Where-
Here's one
where
way.
to go
There's two ways to get everybody in the community to show up and get this kind of input.
and give them.
One is to have a door prize. Or as Bob says, what is it, bingo? We could call out bingo numbers. Maybe this room would be full. And the other way is to talk about raising your taxes. And you're here for that. And to
Well, I
eliminate
wasn't here
services.
for raising taxes.
Eliminate
I was-
services,
I was
exactly.
for the services, because I mean, I have my own business too.
The entire thing is an unfortunate set of circumstances, but the reality that the council is dealing with is gone to the voters on 3 occasions, and we still haven't achieved the goal.
I think
And you kind of see the crowd that showed up tonight.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as we talk about raising the taxes, you'll
Don't,
be
don't be,
standing line
yeah,
only out
and
that
you are
door.
right.
So-
You are right.
And like the mayor said, you know, not only are we looking at the police department, this council's got so many issues going on with the general fund,
Yeah.
with all the monies being cut, and his question about a city, it's gonna be a city eventually when we hit the 5,001, and that's not gonna be up to us. We don't have a decision. And the money we're gonna have then is gonna be about double what we have now, and the government's not gonna have it. So we can't look for them for the money.
No, because they're cutting.
That's one of our problems now. They're cutting our funding now.
Absolutely. I mean, the funds were started to be cut about 7 years ago. They were cut and then frozen. Isn't that right, Kevin? I can't remember what year it was. They were cut. I forget what the percentage was, and frozen. And they stayed at that for 5 or 6 years, whatever it is. And here we are today. Now it's going away completely by 2013. And here's the irony in all of it is, we've known for some time that we're going to have a shortfall in revenue in the future. In fact, would have been in fiscal emergency if it hadn't been for the resignation of police sergeant, an administrator resigning, public works. It's somewhere. I used to say $170,000 in annualized salaries. It's actually more than that. If we hadn't eliminated those jobs, that's where we'd be now. We'd already be in fiscal emergency and trying to find a way to amend. And the other thing is, when I ran for the office of mayor, I ran, even on my campaign literature, it said that I was excited about the possibility of serving as a mayor while we had someone in place to handle the day-to-day administration of the village, and then the mayor could focus on community-oriented initiatives. Shortly after we got here and we got involved in all the things that were here, and we saw, wow, we had all the crisis we had. We couldn't. Once the administrator gave his resignation, there was no way to fill that seat again with another $65,000 salary. and almost $90,000 after benefits. And that being said, and I've said this in the newspaper, in my mayor's report, 20 times, if the Village of Amelia was a hair salon with a $2.8 million annual budget, there'd be a full-time manager here. If we were a landscaping company with a $2.8 million budget, there'd be a full-time manager. And what you have is a part-time elected official who's handling our business from his cell phone. Because I can't be here 50 hours a week like somebody should be. So that's the reality of where we're at. I mean, I'm committed to the village. But the way that it is right now, and I've been saying it for months, we are not sustainable going into the future. And that's the sad reality. So what do you do?
You know, bring us back to where we started from a little bit. There's a couple of things that I haven't been mentioned yet that I think is kind of important. We have to realize that we haven't, up until recently, I don't know what the new chief has done, but as of recently, as a councilman sitting up here, we've had a lot of, the police chief has been telling us, we've not had 2 officers on duty before. So we have to remember that too, that we haven't had 2 officers
No,
on duty
we have
before.
had two officers on duty before.
But that's not what's been in the police chief's report. There's always been, hey, from this window to that window, we've only had 1 officer on duty. From that window to that window, we've only had 1. We've had a lot of that.
But there were certainly times we had 2 officers. Sometimes
We had 2,
Sometimes
but
we had
there.
3.
Sometimes we had 3, but there's been a lot of times, a lot more. The longer I've been here, the lot more common it is for us to only have 1 officer on duty. So I think that any concerns over, I guess what I'm trying to say is if we're concerned about trying to get more money now for the police because we don't think we're going to have enough coverage, I think we need, like I said, I really think we need to let the dust settle. And when we talk about the village being in the red, we're not talking about the police department. I mean, if our revenue's holding flat on here, and I see extra money in just the initial report here, when we go from being busted to being ahead of the game, to me, I think that the police isn't in god awful fiscal emergency. I think it's tight, but who's not? Who's not tight? And I mean, I think that's when we're looking forward and we're talking about the general fund. We're talking about 2 different things, and we have to remember that.
But again, we haven't, without going into what they are, there are some issues that have not been subtracted from that amount. Huge amounts.
Like what?
You can't say we're in the red or in the black because that number shows black, because those things haven't happened yet.
But you can't. It's projected. We're still doing our projections.
No,
I mean, we've gone from.
But this is projected to happen as well.
Like I said, we go from every number I've seen put before me before this time has always said that we're going to be broke in the police department. Here I am. I come in tonight and I get a number in front of me that says we've got extra money.
But you
can
look
see
at
where
it
I'm
in,
coming
you look
from
at it
and
in
go,
right
hey.
now's time. Right now it says we're in the black. All right, everybody, we're good. We can go home. We're good. But tomorrow something happens. Oh, my bad. We're not good. I was wrong. You can't. You have to look forward. You can't look at it today. And I've said this over and over. You get tunnel vision. You see black. Oh, we're good. We're going to give you all raises. Have a good day.
You're missing my point. And if you care to elaborate on any costs that aren't listed here, you can get your briefing. If they're not on here, they're not occurred yet. So we don't. How can you predict what they are? It's like the sinkhole. I mean, yeah, sure, we can have a sinkhole open up tomorrow under this building. Now we're looking at buying a new council building. How can you plan for that? You can't. There's insurance. There's other things to help you out with that. Some of these costs we know are going to come. Some of it's going to be covered under insurance. Some of it's not. You got to do your best to get as much money in there. And like I've been said, we're not going to. I don't know how. And I've said this many times, and maybe that's where it comes from my philosophy. I don't see us getting any more money. I know we've got a room full of people here who'd be more than happy to give the police more money. The problem is there's a lot of people out there that don't have more money to give. They want to give more money to the cops. They love our cops. They want to give more money to the village. They love it. They just plain don't have it. Because our police officers aren't the only people who haven't gotten raises in a few years. And that's, I couldn't think of a police, fireman, I can't think of anybody that works for this public, that works for this village that would deserve a raise more. I mean, those people do more for anybody else here. And I would love to see them get a raise, which is why that's the first thought that pops into my head when I see black. And and if that's, and if we gotta run a little tight to do it, then we gotta run a little tight to do it. And but we've gotta have, but like I said, let me put a caveat that when I say that, the dust has got to settle first. We got to see how much money's there. The dust hasn't settled yet, and we haven't. We're still sitting here at this meeting because supposedly we came here to get information about the county, and we're still supposedly looking at bringing the county in. So to sit here and have arguments about what we're going to do, how we're going to put a levy on the ballot to give our officers raises now, or to get more money so we can get even more police protection, until we make that decision on the county, like I said, it's kind of premature. So it's me to say, well, we can give everybody raises. Which is why I'm making clear that I'm putting a caveat on that. I don't, until it does, that's my first thought. And that's just my first thoughts on the things. And I'm going to just ramble on forever. So I'll stop.
Now, if you give our officers a raise now based on these projected numbers, then you run the risk of not being able to make payroll in January and February.
Well, and to that argument, I would point one quick fact. Kevin said that he included bennies in the part-time officers' things, which are not required. We don't pay them now. Am I correct in that? Mm-hmm. So there's a pretty good sizable chunk of numbers that's going to come out of there.
150 hours per minute overtime.
Overtime, that's going to come out of there too. So I mean, there is some. I mean, this is a worst case scenario. To get to about 10% reserve, it's $60,000. I can't remember what Mr. Gilpin said, but I feel like 10% was right. So I mean, at $30,000, I mean, it's pretty quick to get to that 60. I know it sounds like a lot of money, and it sounds like a ton of money to me. When that's one of the strangest things about being up here is I can sit here and say $30,000 isn't a lot of money because that's crazy, because it is. But when you're talking about $2 million or whatever our budget is, it's not a ton of money.
What's our monthly payroll for the police department? I guess now.
Oh, we have that somewhere in here. Under his proposal, we have that in here. It is month of June. It is $23,000. So 2 months would be what? 46.
We're looking at a number in the rate.
Plus 19.5% on top of that.
Well, but what I'm saying is I can find some more. If you want to really go and break the numbers down, we're close. Is what I'm saying. We're close.
But the thing is, that doesn't leave any money for increases. If we got 46, just make payroll in January, February.
Thank you.
The 33, in monies doesn't allow us to give increases.
I get what you're saying, but again, I'll go back to what I said. This numbers we're dealing with here already has. I mean, these are the worst case numbers we have in front of us. That means there's the worst case. Let me rephrase that. If you
got contingent liabilities that are on there. You got other payroll people that are on there.
Well, then why am I looking at these numbers?
For every dollar in pay that you give someone, we are obligated by law to pay almost 20% in pension, plus another almost 1.5% in Medicare for any new officer. And then whatever other statutory things that may come out. So if you give everyone a 50-cent raise, it's actually going to cost the village 75 cents. There goes your $20,000 or $30,000 surplus real fast.
Okay, I'm going to go back to where I was just a second ago. Like I said, when I see black, that's just the first thought that pops into my head. And looking at this, and when we talk about having a reserve, and I look at the fact that we've got benefits calculated, overtime calculated on part-time officers, we just sat there and said that we weren't going to have. I see some wiggle room in this number, this $33,000 I have here. I've seen, and like I said before, we've gone from predicting it up till this report, we've been predicting the shortfall in the police department. We've been saying we've not had enough money because we've been going, we need to replace this guy and that guy. This is the first time I've seen black at the bottom of one of these reports. I mean, to sit here and, like I said, and when I originally said that, is my thought isn't let's go get more money for the taxpayers, and I guess that's maybe where I should have stopped at. But like I said, I can see the wiggle room for it. I'm not going to say that we can do it, and that's not what I'm up here saying. I'm not saying that we have room to give anybody a raise. All I'm saying is that look, we've got money in there now. We've gone from not having money. I can't wait to see where we're going to be at January or 2 or 3 months from now. I mean, you know, if he's done this in 10 days to our police department, I can't wait to see what he's done in 90. I mean, I can't wait. And I mean, that's really, I guess, the point I was trying to make. I mean, you know, and like I said, and that's where I'm getting at when I say that I think that all this talk about trying to get more money now is a little premature. I went too far extreme on that.
Any other public input?
I got a question.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
right now, does our current levies pay for our current officers that we have now? It's either yes or no. Chuck?
All I can go is off of what I got right here, and as far as I know, then the answer is yes. Because I mean, he says it. He's got it all broke down here, right in black and white.
Then why do we need to ask the residents for another levy on? And second of all, I moved here 5 years ago. I see less coverage now than what I did when I first moved into the village. I don't see police officers patrolling my street as much as they did probably 3 years or so ago. So we're paying the same or more for less coverage.
I'd like to just clarify on that I said very clearly, I think this talk about looking at more money for the cops is premature. And I'd also like to point out that I brought out you are getting less coverage now, I would argue, than you got 3 or 4 years ago.
Correct.
I think you were very correct in saying that, and that's the point I was trying to make. I think right now, and it's no knock on any one of our officers, it's no knock on anybody, we've had a lot of medical leaves, covered in his report. There have been some issues, the coverage has been down. And like I said, again, that's another reason why I say it's premature, all this talk about trying to get another police levy. We need to let the dust settle. We really need to let the dust settle. If we're going to stick with our cops, we need to give our new police chief a chance and see where we are in 90 days or longer.
You just heard the residents out here and say, put something on the ballot. Almost every one of them, I thought I heard say, put it on the ballot. We want our police force. Put it on the ballot. And now you want to tell them, no, we're not going to do that because...
You know, I can speak for me, myself, and I said I'm not going to raise your taxes, and I stick firm to that. And I'm going to do my darndest to see that that's something that I'm not going to do. And like I said when I started out, you know, I'm going to get a lot of grief from non-Tea Party people. I ran on a platform, I stick to it.
No, you're going to get a grief from a lot of the residents. That's what you're going to get the grief
That's
from.
right.
Tea Party or not.
I'm an elected official. I ran on an issue. I'm going to stick to it. And you know,
so in other words,
if that's
you guys
not,
get
well, like I said, anybody who doesn't agree with me,
I'm
a
happy
couple
all
years.
these people showed up, and you have over 4,000 residents in this village. This place should have been small.
Yeah.
See, I don't want to take,
if you take a majority of the people that were sitting out here, I mean, that's all we can do.
Right.
We can only gather information from those of you the people that do show up, and the ones that did show up tonight. I mean, and that's what I'm basing on. I'm not saying 4,000 people, but I mean, you know, when 2 people sit out here, we can go by what those 2 people say.
Or you can choose to stick to the issues you ran on, and that's where I'll
Okay,
always
that's got
be.
nothing to do with what I just said. Absolutely nothing to do with what I just said.
I have something. I'm kind of confused.
Next.
I mean, there's a lot of projection. What if, you know what I mean? And, you know, any business will fail if they don't take stock in their inventory. You know what I mean? I hear, you know, the guy's only been on, the sheriff's only been or the chief's only been on duty 10 days. You know what I mean? He comes up with these numbers. Are they going to be exact? No. You know? And he said he did round up everything. He rounded up. Ms. Gerber mentioned something about some pending high dollar possibly expenses, you know, that hasn't been addressed. You know what I mean? And, you know, it's a lot of what ifs. There's nothing hard, you know. We're talking to the sheriff's department about what they're going to do, and the guy's telling us 3 years, 1 year, and then I hear our lawyers talk about it's all in here. It's in here. It's written down. And have those numbers been crunched to that 3,000 or 4,000? You know what I mean? There's a lot of things being thrown up, and it's like, you know, throwing a bunch of shit around that nobody knows what's going on.
Well, this is the first meeting.
You know what I mean? And what we're saying is we want our sheriffs. We want the police that we have. You know what I mean? And throwing all this stuff back and forth, we'll give them raise, we're not, we need a levy. I mean, what am I to think? You know, what am I going to walk out here thinking? I'm confused. I come in here for some clarity. The patrolman in my neighborhood might lose their job. I like what I have. That's what I want answers to. You know, all this other stuff, I'm here to address the policemen. You know, our force that we have. We're good. I'm happy. You know what I mean? That's what we need to concentrate on. Get some hard numbers. Get something you could put out there. Get a round up, you know. Put that number she might have in her head for these unexpected. If we're going to project, let's put these numbers together. You know what I mean? Let's figure it out.
They're already together.
They're not. They're not together.
I'll tell you somebody who's been sitting not that long ago, and I know I'm sitting back here now, but I'm the furthest thing from a politician you'll find up here. This is the hardest numbers I've seen on this yet. I don't know if that helps you any or not, or where that puts you, and I can tell you again, where I stand on this issue, I want to keep our cops, and I've yet to see a reason we need more money. And if you want to sum my position up in a nutshell, I've yet to see a reason why we can't keep our cops, and I've yet to see a reason why we need to raise taxes.
Okay, let me
That
ask
helps,
this. Let me ask this. You all have the numbers. You have heard what I've heard, and you know more than I know. With what you see, with the real estate maybe losing some of that revenue, 3 to 4%, right next year, or you know when they're going to reevaluate our homes for tax purposes, we're going to lose that revenue. If you took all the information you have today and what you know is your job, are we going to be able to afford a police officer?
Currently, I think so.
What about you, sir?
Currently, as of today,
Yeah.
yes. As of tomorrow.
And that's what we're doing. We're just throwing a bunch of.
No,
I
it's
think-
the beginning of what we're trying.
You have an obligation to look at the future. You can't plan just for tomorrow. You have an
I understand.
I gotta
Any
say
business,
that.
you have to
That's,
plan
I
for the future.
understand that. I do understand that's what I'm talking about. There's a lot of that goes into this equation, you know.
Thereby, you have a discussion and a special meeting, you invite the public to it. And I don't think anybody up here is prepared to make a determination on anything. This is exactly what it is, a discussion.
Mayor, I'll defer. You had a question, you wanted to say something.
I was just going to say, I look at, and Kevin probably looks at them the same way, I look at these numbers and you can't sustain your police department. I actually am more discouraged by these numbers than numbers I've seen in the past. Because the $33,000 isn't enough. If it's not enough for your reserve, it's not enough to run the police department you have. You've got two guys. If you get two guys out on workers' comp, this is blown. It's done. You don't have the money. You get, a lawsuit. You lose a lawsuit. The insurance doesn't pay for the award. It pays for the attorney. So you lose. One of our officers shoots somebody, and it's found to be unjustified. You now don't have a police department. I mean, this is not. And this is just from my perspective in other departments. This is not enough fluff to run the department you have today, in my opinion. And I think Kevin is. I'm looking across at Kevin. He's feeling the same nasty feeling in the pit of his stomach that this is not enough fluff for what you got now.
Laura, I'm gonna stop you right there. He's gonna change the tape. All right. This time I'd like to ask our fiscal officer if he would just provide his feedback with regard to how he feels about the fiscal health of our police department based on the numbers that are in front of us. And his feedback is based on some 30 years experience in governmental accounting. So, Kevin?
I have two sources of numbers to work with. One is from what's known as the UAN. It's the accounting system the village uses, designed, built, supported, whatever, by the state auditor, one of my former employers. It is currently projecting, if everything stays rosy and there are absolutely no increases in anything, a surplus of around $100,000 at the end of 2012. That is if everything stays exactly the same as today. I don't see that happening. The estimates for Claremont County are from news sources. I have not heard anything directly from Ms. Fraley, who is your auditor. News sources are saying 3 to 7% decrease in Claremont County. The chief analyst for the Ohio Department of Taxation said he would be happy if it was only 3 to 7%. He would not be surprised if it was 10%. Hamilton County just sent out their new values. For some reason, my property went up. I think my former boss is mad at me. I'm not sure. But overall, in Hamilton County, they are looking at, I believe, upwards of a 10 to 15% decrease countywide. I don't think Claremont is going to be that far off from Hamilton. Yes, there's a lot of new construction in Claremont County. But from what I've seen in the 2 months here in Amelia, a lot of that new construction is just the other side of the fence. Amelia's not getting it. Pierce Township's getting it. Batavia Township's getting it. There is some new construction here because I see the pay-ins for zoning permits. Not that many, not for a village this size. I think the estimate that we got with the chief and I working together is far more realistic than what the accounting system says, because it just looks at the bare numbers. It looked at the last 4 years and said, okay, based on these last 4 years, here's what's going to happen in the next 5. Those 4 years, 3 of those 4 years, the police levy, police department was skating on thin ice as far as a carryover balance. 1 year, the police levy ended up with 0. One legal claim against a police department would have quite possibly bankrupted the village. $33,000 is not enough carryover for even one patrol officer, let alone the whole department. When I was county auditor in Holmes County, my philosophy that I told the commissioners every year, whatever you do, make sure we have at least 3 months of money carry over so we can at least meet payroll. I don't care about anything else, let's meet payroll. $33,000 is not going to meet payroll for 3 months. It's not going to meet it for 2 months. And as I said, on every paycheck that goes out, the village incurs a liability of around 21 to 22% just for pension in Medicare. And again, that's on new employees. Anyone hired after 86 has to pay the Medicare. The village is also, from what I've seen so far, picking up all of the other benefits, which is a healthy chunk of change. We do have litigation pending against the village. Laura right now is the only person who knows whether that litigation is going to end up in the village favor or in the plaintiff's favor. And then, for her, yell at me if you want, it's a crapshoot whether or not the village ends up paying $1 or several $100,000. Until we know for certain that litigation, which way it goes, all of these numbers mean nothing. The insurance will only cover so much on litigation.
Just the legal fee.
Yeah.
Attorney.
As we have listed in our estimates is the training. Again, I'm going back on my over 30 years experience in local government. My dad was a city solicitor in Highland County for about 15 years or so. There was one thing that the city of Hillsborough was always afraid of, the few townships that had their own police departments were afraid of, and that was a police officer not having enough training and then one day having to pull out his weapon and use it. Just pulling the weapon out, not even squeezing that trigger, can open up a local government to possible litigation if they don't have enough training. Even something as simple, and I guess Kobe would be able to answer this, former deputy sheriff. What's going to happen if one of our officers doesn't get that 10 hours of defensive driving training? What if they don't get that however many hours is needed for first responder training because the money's not there? I've been through the first aid training. I used to be a certified instructor in first aid. And the one thing the instructors always told us was, go ahead and use this, but make sure you let the people know you are a volunteer. Because that makes a big difference on any liability that you incur personally. Kobe wouldn't have that protection as a deputy sheriff because he's paid to be a sheriff, police officer, whatever law enforcement position you may have. The slightest mistake by any police officer, be it with the weapon, the car, anything like that, does open the village up to a big pool of liability. You throw that into the mix, and I do not see $33,000 even being enough to say good morning. The state auditor's system is projecting a fairly nice balance 5 years out. That's not going to do us any good for the rest of this year or even next year. And frankly, I'm not too sure the numbers are accurate from the system. I plugged in the growth, 1%. I don't think they will see 1%. But the alternative was put in 0. You know, 0 revenue growth, but the expenditures are still going to go up. And I can feel the pain for all the police officers not having a raise since, was it 2008, I think? The last 4 years I was with the Hamilton County Auditor. The only raise I ever got was when I turned in the travel report. So, you know, it is very, very tight. It looks like we have a surplus, but there are these unknowns. That's the only way I can call them. Kind of makes Laura cringe when I say that, but I don't know what's going to happen with that litigation. I've been notified by the state that we have a workers' comp claim. I've had 2 requests in that regards. I have no idea what the final outcome is going to be in that workers' comp claim because the state won't tell you until they're done. Once the state finalizes that, it could be anywhere from 0 to time lost to penalty and interest on top of time lost. Who knows?
Well, and that was what I'm saying. This is not, when I look at it, it's not a lot of fluff. You're one, car chase injury away from using this completely up in your workers' comp. And I've had cases where the award is $200,000-$300,000 where I don't think it was a justified, but you're in a jury. So you don't have $200,000-$300,000 fluff in it. And you don't have to, but I'm just concerned when we look at $33,000 and we all get excited because we have contingent liabilities out there. We've got litigation. We have other claims. And frankly, even if the litigation is not an issue, our other claims may eat up that $33,000. So I don't want people walking away thinking it's good. I mean, it's good that we're working in that direction. I just don't want people walking away going, okay, we're clean, we're good. You guys are in a situation where you're either going to have to raise revenue or reduce services. I don't know how else you do it. You can be creative. The chief's been great, and you guys brought him in to do what he's doing. He's been great. He's found a lot of, this is better than it would have been if we'd not looked at this. I think his schedule works. I mean, we're going to tweak some FLSA stuff to do it. Yes, we are. You're wrong.
No, you're wrong. I got documentation.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say that.
You're wrong. You're wrong because they're not exempt. They're not exempt because you got to have 5 people and you're part-time counting your 5. Trust me, I'm an FLSA expert. But anyway, we can work it out. But we're going to have to change some. We're going to change some major policies to get our work week to change in order to get out of overtime. But I mean, there's some creative things we can do. But officers have to sign in on that. I mean, we're asking the officers to work more for less. I mean, you're taking the overtime away after 40. That's a big thing to ask them to do, given that they haven't had a raise. So I'm the lawyer, and I really shouldn't be saying all this, but I have a lot of experience in this because I represent a lot of jurisdictions, and that number doesn't make me feel good. And I wanted Kevin to say it because I knew he was having the same.
I'd like to, just one last thing. It is getting very late. In Hamilton County, they have a pending liability that ranges from $10 million to $182 million. No one knows what that final number will be. It depends on who you talk to. Even if it comes in at the low end, Hamilton County cannot afford to pay it, even though they're self-insured and they have a reserve fund. They can't afford to pay it. If it comes in at the high end, Hamilton County goes belly up, plain and simple. I bring that up just to let you know the extremes on a pending litigation. It could be nothing to, you have got to be kidding me.
But if we focus on that, and I'm not saying we shouldn't focus on that, and we shouldn't be mindful of that, but you could pass a levy with $170,000 bonus. You could have a balanced budget with $100,000 in the bank, and that could still come back and bite us no matter what. You can plan and you can predict and you can save and you but it's all a crapshoot. I mean, in the end, it's all a crapshoot. $10 million. Well, I mean, it's an educated guess,
But the thing is, the village is not bankrupt if you have 100,000 excess and your judgment is 200,000. You can work that out. If you got $5 and your judgment is 200,000, you're not going to make that up.
Chief Hollis?
A lot of good comments, educated me quite a lot. I understand the concerns of everyone about the money that the carryover or such. I'm not happy with that carryover either. But better to have a little carryover than not. We build on that next year. Working on that. Just because I got the bucks doesn't mean I need to spend it for any other reason. I just need to make sure that once it goes back into the kitty, that's still my money, and it doesn't go someplace else. Next year, I might have 60 grand.
All the revenue that comes into the police department is yours.
Yeah. So like I said, as long as we can get that track, I'm happy. As for the unknown liabilities, okay, I'm cool with that. I got no problem. But it sure as hell don't scare me. I'm not going to change what I'm doing because, we don't know what unknown liabilities we got out there.
Well, if we were a private, we would have to budget for them. If we were a company, we would have to have a reserve for what we believe would be the.
And we should have that,
And we should
but
have
we
some
don't
funds.
have it. So I'm myself, I'm not overly concerned with it.
If we were a city, we'd have to
Going
budget
on
for it
with
and report it.
Yeah, but you still have to make payroll. If you have to make payroll in the new year.
Well, exactly, that's what I'm saying, I'm not concerned about that, I'm glad we got that, I'm glad we're working towards it. But I don't want to concentrate on all these unfunded things. If it's going to happen, there's not a thing we can do
Right,
about
but
it
you know
now.
payroll is going to happen.
Yeah,
And $30,000 is enough.
right,
Well, you know that's going to happen. That's not
right.
an
So
unknown.
that's what I'm saying, that's there. But all these other things were thrown out there, the rockets are coming, it's too
Yeah, but they
late.
have to be considered.
I-
You know yourself, if you were in a tactical situation, you'd have to be prepared for what might happen.
And take.
You couldn't just fight, you just couldn't fight the fight standing in front of you. You'd have to think
We
tactically.
all know that's out there, exactly what they are, I have no clue. Don't even want to know if I don't have to know. But don't concentrate on all that, because no matter what happens here, no matter what kind of tax levies we get, what I'm hearing is it still may not be enough. We still may fold. Okay, we might fold, we might not, who cares? Let's push on, assuming we're going to keep on going. I can't be dragging my folks through a doomsday scenario. We all know it's out there. Just by the fact we're cops, we know the hazards. Of course, we all think it's going to happen to the other guy, shooting, killing, or something like that. So we're not concerned about that. We're going to push forward and say, yeah, it's out there, it's coming. We don't know how bad it's going to be. We'll give it our best shot. We're going to focus on the positive, moving forward. Realize it's not going to sneak up behind us. Hell's going to
He
get us
already
anyway.
did. He already did sneak up behind you. Because going into the new year, you can't make payroll for the first quarter. He already got, he got you.
Somehow we've survived in years past.
Exactly.
Because we
This is
didn't
not
pay,
fun.
we didn't pay any bills.
Yeah, well, like I said, You know, to say, like he said in the past, a year ago we ended with $0, or 2 years ago, when was that? We ended with $0 not too long ago. Hey, we're getting better.
Yeah,
Things are getting better. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I've been trying to say. We're moving in a
But then
positive
we stole money from the general fund, payroll. We don't have much.
Concentrate on moving forward, not one that might be going down.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Is I'm like, this is the most positive thing I've seen
No, there's some.
out of these
It's not
numbers,
gonna
and
happen.
I don't know how long.
Surplus.
And that's and you want to know why I'm excited? That's why I'm excited. I mean, in the past, we sat here last year at this time, we were going, oh my God, we got to have $170,000, or we got to get these levies passed. I mean, that's what the former chief stood there and told us. And now we're here, and I see positive, and I'm excited. I'm sorry if I'm excited.
It's good to be excited. It's things we need to address.
Yeah.
Currently, we're okay for now, but we need to address some issues. But it's good that we have any positive number whatsoever.
And like I said, the biggest reason I said that is that, for all the people out there concerned about it, look, I mean, we can do it. We can keep our police department from what I see here, and that would
You
my
can
real
you can
thrust.
keep them through the end of the year, and then what do you do in March when you haven't received your disbursement? How are you going to pay them then?
Again, we somehow managed to do that when we ended the year with $0.
We had the general fund to lean on, which we don't have.
The general fund that particular year, if I'm reading the prior year budgets correctly, paid about $42,000. Make sure I'm looking at the right one. As security of persons and property in 2008 was almost $42,000, and that translates to police. That was the year the police levy, police district ended up with a zero balance. If the general fund had not stood for that money, the police levy would have been in the hole $42,000. The flip side to that coin, the general fund ended up with only $18,000 left in the kitty, which
Also
is not
enough
enough.
to payroll.
No, the general fund is obligated by law to pay all expenses of the village unless there is a specific source of money for another expense. The police district has that levy. However, if the police district runs short, the general fund, by law, if I'm not mistaken, must make up the difference. We don't have the wiggle room to make up the difference in the general fund anymore.
So how much is in the general fund?
Current projections show the general fund ending with only $50,000 at the end of the year. The following year, based on the same projections, again using the state auditor's accounting system, $3,600 left. The year after that, $59,000 in the hole, and it gets worse from there. The general fund could not cover payroll for the police department.
Which means you lay off police officers.
Well, if you calculated to the end of February, it was 27,000 to pay our police officers until we got our tax money.
23,000.
But
You
that's
know, and
just
he
the
says we're gonna
wage.
have 50,000 plus the 33, that's 83.
Yeah, but you have to fund everything else in the village from the general fund.
Everything.
Oh,
Public
that's still gotta
works.
pay the bills?
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
Oh,
Public works crew, salt for the snow plow, the snow plow, electricity, everything.
I mean, that's just the point I wanted to bring up, is that you're really at a decreased services or increased revenue. You can do some wiggle room. Chief did a great job. Kevin does a great job. Council does a great job. I'm an independent entity. I work with a lot of jurisdictions, and I see everybody doing this. You can't nickel and dime your way out of a problem like that if you don't make some significant changes. And that's why council's doing this. That's why the question is to run a levy or to go with the sheriff. Those are the questions. And they're tough. I mean, they're tough. I mean, no matter how anybody up here votes, and again, I'm an independent entity, and I do this way for a reason. I know they all have the best interest of the village at heart. There's several ways to solve this problem, and it's not a lot of fun. So, but I didn't want somebody to think that that was a rosy financial picture, because it's not.
I have another question. Since you're in this business and you've worked with municipalities or cities or whatever, right? And you looked at this contract or this proposal from the sheriff's department, is that a better deal than what we have?
I mean, that's a hard decision to say, and again, it's not really a legal one, so I'm jumping out of my realm.
It's a subjective.
Yeah.
I mean, it will likely be a reduction in service, but it's going to be less money. So you've got to decide. Again, you can't increase services and decrease money. I mean, people have a vastly, and this is not just Amelia, people everywhere have a vastly unrealistic view of what they should get for their tax dollars. You can't fund 60-person police force on what your levy runs. You couldn't do it. The chief's being really creative. I think council's being really creative, and doing a good job with what they have. But the people can only fund so much, and they got to decide.
Just a couple of years ago, Mayor, you ran a forum over at the old elementary school. And it seems to me that there was a whole lot more people there, as I recall, than there are here tonight. For me to make a decision based on maybe 20 or 30 people here tonight, I don't think that's a representative sample of the village. I guess what I wonder, could we do something else like that as an informational type thing, saying, look, guys, here's where we are. We're not self-sufficient.
I proposed that about 2 months ago.
We need, we're at risk of a change in law enforcement, whether it be with the sheriff's department or a reduction in staff here or something else like that. And it's going to come down to this, folks. It's not about tax. It's about what do you want? What are you willing to pay for? What are you going to buy? Now, I'm willing to pay for what we have now because I like it. Okay, and if it costs me a couple dollars more, well, guess what? So does milk. And I think that if we could present that, that might give us some time, or maybe give us some more, maybe generate some more options than maybe the ones that we've heard tonight. There might be a third or a fourth or a fifth out there. Is that even worth a shot doing?
I gave a very similar speech just about 2 months ago right here. Why don't we go to the people? Let's go to the people. Let's explain our circumstances. Let's just ask. Let's just ask for input. And after discussion, the direction that council chose to go in was to research before you go to the people. Because there are no finites now. There are no finites. There's only the questions. And this is the first day of the questions. So, you see what I'm saying? Sure. It was to be able to go to the people and say, here's what we've learned. And what we're here tonight is saying, here's what we're asking. So we haven't learned it all yet. We're gathering information. So council's direction, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, council's direction at the time was, let's gather information. Let's wait until we have information to go before the people. What we have now is idea. What about this? What about that? What about this? And it was to be the catalyst for dialogue. And then once council had something, some more well-refined ideas and facts, then to invite the public to engage in that dialogue. Am I correct in stating it that way? And that's the tack council took. Because I said the same thing as you. And at the same time, I agree with council. We go there and we have a big emotional discussion about things that haven't been hammered out yet. So let's wait until we hammer some things out and we can say, these are legitimate numbers, here's what we really think. Council has these proposals. Right now, we just got all the proposals and we're looking at them for the first time. We're just starting the dialogue. That's what we're at.
I have another statement. I got something else. We got Mr. Powell here with 30 years experience in this business of doing what he's doing for the village. we have an attorney here that represents other villages or cities or municipalities. They have the ultimate experience. You know, they're not apprentice journeymen, they're masters of what they do, I suspect. And they gave us some real hard facts. You know what I mean? That's what we know right now for sure. Yeah, we can collect more data and we can wait 6 more months, another year. But we do have facts in front of us. We do have a starting point. We have facts.
Yeah, it's a starting point.
Well, I say a starting point.
Yeah, it's a
starting point. Maybe this is a starting point for you, but me walking in here and listening to what they have to say, I understand the situation. I know what I mean, they know. He's got it right there. He talked the game. He knows what's going on. She has experience, and they've stated what they believe the future is. So you do have facts. You can collect all the data. You can have all the council meetings you want. But
you're saying that somebody's got to make a decision.
No, I'm not saying that. What about the meeting you proposed 2 months ago, getting the community together?
Well,
we have facts. We have facts.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, we just got them.
Yeah.
We just got them today.
But I want to say something. This council, we feel we surrounded ourselves around the experts, and we feel we got the best for the village. But the problem we're running into, we can get all these facts together and make a PowerPoint presentation, but we can't get no one to show up. We get 10 people. I think the one time we had 27 people. They do not show up. And we don't, and we're sitting there talking to folks, you know, we're just talking to a handful. There's more folks that showed up tonight, and it's very impressive. And we're
because
pleased.
there was factual information in the newspaper that covered and said, by the way. Otherwise, some of us will go to the village website and watch the things. I've even sent a couple emails how impressed I was with some of them that were up there. But not everybody goes there. This one was publicized. Like I said, I've been to council meetings before. Even the ones we had at the school building didn't have 3 TV channels show up. So whatever you got to do to generate.
At least have mailers out to every resident for those.
Press releases all the time.
Yeah, I mean, every resident got a
postcard inviting them to those.
I'm here. I get that. I'm here. I understand that.
But even then, even at the height, we had the biggest meeting we had at the elementary school. There might have been 150 people. That's less than 1% of the population, and that's after sending a postcard to everybody's house, countless media releases. I was interviewed by everybody but Larry King, and still people act like they didn't hear anything about it. You know, and this is not a new discussion. It's not a new discussion at all. It's the first time we've talked. You know, the first time the sheriffs have been here, and it's the first time we've gotten the hard numbers. And when they just received Chief Wallace's proposal this evening when they got here. So while trying to conduct a meeting and kind of decipher the presentation while conducting a meeting, it's not absorbed yet. You know, it's just not. It's not by me, and I'm all in favor. Nobody has ever hosted more town hall meetings than Leroy. All the time, and, you know, I host them to an empty room.
Well, what I've learned is you can't go to the public and give facts or
No, you can give
their
facts.
voting, direct their voting.
Yes, you can always give
Direction,
facts.
right?
Please don't walk out and say I say anything else. You
Right,
can always give
I
facts.
misspoke that. What I meant was, you know, you can't say, this is what you're going to have to do. You're going to vote like the school board did. You're going to take all the sports away and all that.
Well, what we did is we did 2 town hall meetings, and we videotaped one of them that nobody came to, and we put it on the website, the presentation, and
What else can you do?
That's the point. That's the
I mean,
point.
I'm
Here's what you
asking.
can do. You can say, we're going to raise your taxes, and then a whole room full of people show up. Or you can say, we're going to get rid of your police department, and all of a sudden everybody comes out of the woodwork.
Well, you have some information now that you can share with the public.
Well,
Okay.
now what council
So
has to
what's-
do is decipher the information.
Right, but we have some good information. My point is, we can't take this, you can't take this information and give it to the public and direct the votes, what we need to do. Now, if we could possibly set up a neighborhood or a residence panel that could take this information to the public, you know?
But you're saying it has to be a pack.
It has to be
No.
known, it has to
Well,
be.
To do a levy and to raise funds and to do signs and all that stuff, you have to have a PAC and a treasurer. To just talk to your neighbors, you can talk to your neighbor. Please talk to your neighbors and share the information. People can, I mean, you can meet in groups, you can talk about it. We can provide factual papers. We can give you I mean, to help people get the word out. We're just prohibited from lobbying or campaigning for any sort of levy initiative or money. And that's the reason for that is the people who give us their tax money, some of them don't want the levy, some of them do. So we can't decide we're going to use your money to do something that you're absolutely averse to. And the Ohio Supreme Court and the United States Supreme Court said that unequivocally. So we can't do that, but getting factual information all day long, and we've done that. We've done PowerPoints, we've done fact sheets, we thought about last time doing a factual mailing, but there's a lot of groups out there who watch that very carefully, and you got to be very careful. So
I just can't understand why they're being aware.
we've mailed them.
I found on the news yesterday on the ticker in the bottom. That's how I found out. You know?
I know I found in today's society, it seems like you'll get a handful of people that care, but for the most part, if it doesn't come through their yard, through their front door, or affect them personally, they don't care. They just go on.
Well, they're just too busy to care. I mean, it's not that they don't care, it's just they're just busy.
Must be frustrating.
Does everybody here know that our minutes are on our website?
The minutes for all of our meetings are on the website. All council meetings are on Claremont County Communications Channel number 22, as well as posted on our website. I issue press releases on a regular basis with asking for input. There are right now 2 surveys on our website asking for community input, and they've been on there for months. And I bet you if we receive 20 responses in several months, it's a miracle. We want to know how to proceed. We want to know what people think. But, and I've said this in the paper, and you can find it. We're trying really hard to strive to be what the Founding Fathers wanted. Of the people, by the people, and for the people. Unfortunately, we can never find the people. I can shoot a torpedo through this room most times. And I can televise the meetings, I can issue press releases, I can put it on TV, I can put it on the website, I can put it out on the sign out front. At the end of the day, 99.9% of the people are going to say, hey, you guys did that in closed doors, you didn't tell anybody you were doing that.
Yeah.
I hear it all the time. How come I didn't know about that? I don't know how you didn't know that. Maybe you're busy taking care of your kids. Maybe you're working your job. All we can do is reach out, and if nobody reaches back, then you got a group full of people here trying to bounce it around, to try to come up. I think what people do is ask themselves the questions that you're going to ask. In other words, since I don't have anybody here asking questions, then I think the average council person, and I know I do, sits and goes, okay, well, if we do that, then that means people are going to say, why did you do this? Because you couldn't have done it. So you kind of play that game yourself. And so it's sort of an unending circle because you don't really have any quantifiable input.
Yeah. When it fails, you'll hear something.
Yeah.
It's even been in the newspaper that going into 2013, we'll be at a deficit. People are a lot more alarmed about the fact that the council is exploring a way to provide a better level of services. Nobody came in tonight and said, what about that story that says we're not sustainable going into the future?
Because we thought the night was only supposed to be about the police.
Well, it is. But in public input, during the input section, it comes up.
We've already named the meeting go 4 hours. You didn't want us to really bring up that other stuff up.
Yeah, I hear that.
There'll be a time and a place.
Okay. So, I'm done talking. Nothing left to say.
Anybody else?
Council, did it? I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn at 10:54 p.m.
Make a motion to adjourn at 10:47 p.m.
What'd you say?
He made a motion 9 minutes earlier.
Well,
Still need a vote.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.